What's up, basketball fans? Trust you guys are well. My name is Jeff Fuller. Jay Fuller Interviews on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. One of my favorite interviews of all time back when I was on the radio show at WDEV is Jim Clayton, and he's making some time to join us again. Coach, welcome back.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
And so behind me, there is this BAM hashtag. Where did that come from?
Well, it's a funny thing. I just started saying that. I'm kind of an excitable person, and when people would make a shot or to do something, I would just go bam, 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 bam. And I just started saying that, and then I kind of added a son to it, and I didn't really think that much about it, and so fast forward a few years down the road, I joined the John Maxwell leadership team.
Yeah.
And I was down there doing some things and learning, and so one of the ladies down there, I said that, and she said, "Well, what's that mean?" And I said, "Well, to me, it means one, you got to believe in yourself, or don't expect anybody else to. Number two, you got to achieve success. You got to set the bar high and keep resetting it and resetting and resetting it. And if you're going to get anywhere, you got to be motivated through the process."
That's a fact.
So there's believe, achieve, and motivated, and that's BAM. And she said, "Well, I hate to tell you, but that's really like your brand." And I said, "I never even thought about that, So everywhere I go, it's just like BAM, son, or BAM. And so, if you ever hear somebody say that on TV, like in a movie or something, it's always in an excitable moment.
Oh, definitely.
They'll just say BAM. I say, "Did you hear that?" And so it's just like then it turned in. One of the kids says, "Well, Coach, I'm gonna tell you how to market that." This was a 16-year-old boy from down in Johnson County, Kentucky. He said, "I don't mean anything bad, but," he says, "don't put your face in it." He says, "Just make a mustache."
There you go.
And he says, "Put that on there and it will go crazy." Well, he told me that about 2 or 3 years down the road. I said, "I think I might try that." And I did. And you're seeing the end result right there. And it's on t-shirts. It's on decals. It's on sweatshirts. It's kind of everywhere, and it's just how the funniest things will take off.
No doubt. Well, Coach, I want to get me one of those, but I want to back up a little bit. And you were part of sportsubasketball.com, Sports City, and you had opportunity to coach OJ Mayo way back when. Could you just talk us through that process?
Yeah, well, I first met OJ. He showed up in my gym when he was about 7 years old, and he was in a football uniform, and he was at a birthday party, and he didn't even have any shoes on. And they were running up down the court shooting. I said, "Man, this boy, he's going to be," and he was bigger than everybody else at the time. He looked like he was about 10. And so he started coming working out, and I finally started a little Sports City U team, about 8-year-olds. And he was on it, and we would beat teams that are 11 and 12 years old. And it was really funny because 4 or 5 of those guys that were on that little team, they all went on to play on their high school team, and they were back-to-back state champions. They were middle school champions. They were elementary school champions. And it was just an unbelievable group. So I coached OJ when he first started, and then he kind of took some different roads, went to Kentucky, went to Ohio, did some things. And then his senior year, he decided he was coming back to Huntington. And so he rejoined that team that was back-to-back state champs. And then when he got there, it was like, woo, it was like on, because Patrick Patterson was on that team who plays for, I don't know who he's playing for now. He was with Oklahoma City, but and we had a great team. And, it was just a fun time. And he was fun to coach. He's fun. I still talk to him all the time on Instagram. I'll post something. He'll hit me up. He said, next time he gets back to Huntington, he's going to come up to the gym and we're going to have a shootout and kind of see who. I said, "You're not going to shoot me, so don't even act like you can." So that's kind of how that all went down.
And with Lou Holtz, he mentioned that great players made him a great coach. Could you just talk about the difference for you coaching high-level athletes, but also you do so much at all levels? How important is it that you treat kids the same, whatever level they are?
Well, I think today, I think kids play, it's a little different. Kids play basically in two cultures. They play in what I call a punishment culture, and they play in what I call a growth culture. And a punishment culture is every time you mess up, sit down.
Hmm.
And so what kids do today is you've got a bunch of pleasers. They play just to do enough not to make a mistake so they don't have to sit down. Then you got other coaches that play in the growth culture, where I'm going to make mistakes because I believe, everybody thinks success and failure are kind of opposite ends, but really they're side by side. You can't
Yeah.
have one without the other. And, so many people just don't understand that concept. So, when you're making mistakes, you're on your way to getting better. And you can't grow as a person without making some mistakes. If you don't make any mistakes, you're basically just staying right in your comfort zone, and you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to stay right there. But when you're coaching elite athletes, the difference is with those guys is they pay a lot more attention to detail.
Yeah.
And when you're coaching the little ones, you're a little bit less detailed with them because their attention span might not be quite that long.
Sure.
So you're just trying to get some basic things in where they understand it. You can get a little bit more detailed as they get a little bit older. And but that's basically the big thing. It's just that the elite athlete, man, you show them one time and they got it. The other guys, you got to show them 492,000 times, and you got to have a lot of patience,
Oh, for
lots of
sure.
patience. And Lou Holt said it right. I mean, when you got great players, it makes your job easy. But for most people, they don't have people like OJ calls you and said, "Hey, coach, I'm coming to join your team this year." They don't have those All Americans coming in. You got to develop those
Right.
players, okay? And you see, there's where it gets a little sticky, okay? Because you see this all the time. You see, you'll have a good team and they'll have a good run, and all of a sudden, man, they're not any good. And the coaches will go, "Well, we just got a bad cycle of players coming through right now." That's untrue. You ain't a bad cycle of players. You just neglected the ones coming up because you were enjoying all the success, and now they're gone, and you didn't do anything to prepare. And now look where you are.
Yeah. Hey, coach, I wish you could see it. It's kind of blurred on the back picture. It says hope over this silhouette of your frame. And could you just go back, rewind when you were a kid or the point in life when you broke your back or neck and had to relearn how to shoot a basketball? This is a fascinating story for me.
Well, when I was about 5 days before my 12th birthday, I decided we were jumping off a fire pit into leaves and stuff. And I slipped and I went straight down with my hands behind my head, and I just snapped my neck straight back. I shattered my C1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your neck. Most people don't survive one of those. And I was totally paralyzed from the neck down. And it was, I mean, I could remember it. I couldn't move. I was face down. And the best way to describe it would be almost like you were in an electrical storm at home where your lights go off and then
Hmm.
they come back on. That's what happened to me. I, 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 I couldn't move, and then I could move. And I lay there for a while, got up, rode my bike home with a broken neck. I did all kinds of things I shouldn't have done. I really took me about 3 or 4 hours to get to the hospital before I even knew what had even happened. I mean, I knew I was injured, but my dad said, "Oh, you just sprained your neck. You'll be all right." And I went to the hospital on the 17th of October, and I didn't come out until like April.
Wow.
And they totally rewired my neck. I don't have any vertebrae in my neck. When I was in there, I was kind of paralyzed. I got some feeling back, and then on my right side and my right leg, I had tingling and things, but I didn't sever my spinal column. So they thought, well, hey, it might come back. And I didn't have any feeling at all, but like I said, it was just like your leg was asleep. Okay. And then they put this big body cast on me and they said, "You're not moving anywhere." And I mean, I never got out of bed. I never sat up for 6, 8 months. But the great thing was, man, I grew a foot. I mean, I went in, 5 foot tall. I came out 6 foot tall, and I didn't have to go through any growing pains. Well, they finally said, we can't do anything for you. So we're going to take you home in an ambulance. So they took me home in an ambulance. I still hadn't walked or nothing. So finally, believe it or not, before they went me home, the doctor came in. He took like a needle in my foot. He says, "You feel this?" I said, "Nope." And one day he came in and he put that needle in there, and I about kicked his face off. And I could feel, and my feeling was back, and I could move again. I mean, there's no medical explanation other than, God really wasn't through with me.
Yeah.
He had something he wanted me to do, and he was going to help me through it. And, back 50 years ago, there wasn't any physical therapy. I basically had to teach myself how to walk again. And I did it in my house with an 80-pound body cast. I only weighed 90 pounds. And I just basically took little step by step, holding on to things. And, and then I got big bruises on my feet. I said, I'm not going back in that bed. I said, go get me some Dr. Scholl's or something. I said, and so basically I taught myself how to walk again. And then, they took that body cast off and they put this neck brace on, it had a chin strap and a bunch of wires and all this, but I could get my hands up. And I got in a swimming pool. That helped a little bit. And, I'd walk down the street to where this rim is 6 foot tall, like I told you earlier. And I'd shoot on that 6 foot tall rim over and over because I wasn't a good shooter. I was just like everybody else. I used two hands. And basically, I just developed a shot. And I mean, I could get it up above my head, but other guys were still shooting it from their chest. And, got that baby off. And man, then all of a sudden, man, I was moving and grooving. I had myself a jump shot. I had no clue how I was doing it. Nobody taught me. I just basically figured it out on that little goal because I took the strength out of it. And see, little kids that shoot on 10-foot goals, there's an old saying that says when strength becomes a factor, technique goes right down the tubes. And so most kids just throw it up there because they can't get it up there.
Right.
And then you got to go back and you got to refix that later. And that's kind of what I do. I said, because kids don't learn right. So I spend more time in repair because they didn't prepare. And so basically, I taught myself how to shoot. I tried out for the team. Coach says, man, I don't know, I said, Coach, you got to give me a chance. I made the team and didn't get much playing time because we had a good team. And then the next year, man, I took off. And then, man, I took off again and again and again and again. And it just kind of kept going. And, then I said, well, I think I want to coach in college, So, after I finished, I played in college. I played a year at Virginia Tech and I played 3 years at West Virginia Tech. And then I saw this guy one time at a camp. His name was George Lehman. And George was the shooting guru back in the day. Pro Kids is what he wore. He was from New Jersey. His brother was a ball handling machine, Austin, and he didn't miss. And I watched this guy do this. And I said, man, I think I could do this. So I go home and I start trying to design a system. Put my own system. How am I going to call this? What am I going to do? How am I going to set this up? First time I really ever did that. And then I called some of my local coaching buddies and said, hey, you need somebody to come speak at your camp? They said, yeah. I said, come on. I said, I'll give away some posters, T-shirts. I'll do some things. So that's kind of how I got started doing this, and one thing's led to another. And 40 years later, here I am still doing it,
Well, it's fascinating, and it's a testament to your drive, your passion. And we're going to talk about John Maxwell in a little bit, just his leadership. But if you could just pause for a moment, and I'm not trying to discount this pandemic at all. This COVID-19 quarantine is very disruptive, something that I've never experienced before in my life. But knowing what you've been through, how important is resilience and for kids or people to stop making excuses and to take that next step forward?
Oh, it's just critical. It's critical because I think we just had this conversation a couple of days ago. I think this epidemic with people being at home and not being able to do things, it's turned them into, they're lazy. They just sit around. They become really lazy. And, there for a while, I couldn't get in the gym and do things. And see, these kids today, I taught school for almost 40 years, high school too, to add to that. Kids, they don't really use their imagination anymore. They just go hit YouTube, or they go do this or back in our days, if you saw it on TV, you went out and tried to do it. That's how you did it. I mean, we didn't have all this stuff. Okay. So, kids today, they have the mentality of, I need to get it right now. Well, there are certain things in life you just can't get right now.
Yeah.
And it's called the process. And anybody who's really great at anything has done two things. They've gone through the process and they've paid the price. Well, see, these kids, they want to just get there. They want to fast forward everything. They want to hit the button and be there. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, see, the things that you're looking for, you can't buy. I said, go to Dick's Sporting Goods and go to basketball section and say, what aisle do y'all sell jump shots in? They're going to look at you like you're nuts. I said, well, what aisle do you sell ball handling in? Well, we'll sell you the ball. We'll sell you the basket. But it's up to you to figure out what to do next. And you see, that's hard work. That's going through that process. That's learning. That's growing. That's stumbling. That's falling. That's getting up again. That's, keep pushing and pushing till you get it right. And not finding an excuse. I said this the other day. I said, you can't have results and excuses. You got to pick one or the other. I said, and so many kids today, it's always somebody else's fault why they didn't get what they need to get.
Yeah.
And, with this pandemic, I mean, people, there's, you could go out on your court, nothing stop you from going out and shooting. The ball won't shoot itself. Okay. Well, that's not the same. Well, that's the next best thing you got. Okay. So you better go out. I said, in your mind, it could be Madison Square Garden. It could be your gym in the championship game. It could be the state championship. Go out there and use your imagination and work on your game and do some stuff. And don't just sit around playing NBA Jam where you pick a move and all of a sudden you got it. I mean, you got to go develop it. You see, and see, that's what gets most people. And when it all comes down, probably 98% of the population, they join the most popular team in America. That's the coulda, woulda, and shoulda, but didn't team. And that team does not need any more members. So, you just gotta think, well, I'm just going to take this one day at a time. That's kind of how I did it. I take it one day at a time. Actually, it gave me a little bit of time. The only time I've had probably in the last 40 years to back away from the game a little bit and do some other things. And, when I backed away and started doing other things like painting and staining and, doing things, which I hate to do, by the way, it gave me some quiet time to actually think. And I came up with some of the most, some of the newest concepts out of nowhere. I don't even know where they came from. But you see, it just gave me a time to step back, reflect a little bit, look at where I was, look at where I'm going. What are some changes I need to make, and how am I going to do those? And that's kind of what kids need to do, but they never do that. So they never do that. They just in the moment, here it is, okay, whatever. That's their motto.
Yeah, the John Maxwell team that you're a part of. I love how John Maxwell, I'd listened to a seminar. He said, everything worthwhile in life is uphill, but the problem is we have downhill habits. How have you taught good habit stacking for kids not to give up, but to really push themselves?
Well, I think it comes back to a little confidence. I've developed my system to where kids can see confidence. They can see results quickly. Okay. They see things real quick. And I think that's kind of the way you get people. You get them where you want them. They got to kind of see that it's working. Because when you try to change some things on people and it doesn't work, you see those eyes rolling, those hips. Oh, here comes that attitude. Okay. And, I said, those habits, if you learn how to do things right, like I said, you don't have to repair. But to get to the top, it's uphill. People hate that because they just want to land on top of the mountain where the Jeep is. Okay. They don't want to climb it. They just want to go straight to the penthouse. And I told him, I said, there are no elevators to the top. There's just steps. And you got to be willing to take those steps. And when you take a couple steps, sometimes, what about the time you first learned to walk? My little granddaughter's down there. She's one. She's just about figured out how to walk. And she'll take one step, boom, there she goes. She just gets up and does it again. Okay. So see this attitude that these kids learn, they learn this, early. Okay. They learn that failure, they can't stand it if everything's not perfect. And I said, well, let me break it down for you. It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. It's never going to be perfect. And you just got to keep climbing and grinding and pushing and plugging and whatever it takes. That's what you got to do. And, when I teach one skill leads to the next skill, which leads to the next skill, which leads to the next. So it's kind of like stacking, or it's like Legos connecting. So once you learn this, you can see how it all applies. And for a lot of kids, I really honestly believe, because I ask this to them all the time. I say, how many of you sat in school today and thought this? Why am I learning this? How am I ever going to use this? This is the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen in my life. And they go, Coach, I have that thought every second, almost every day. I said, well, let me break it to you how I did it. Here's how I taught, and here's how I teach basketball. Here's what we're learning today. Gotcha. Here's why we're learning it. Gotcha. And here's how you're going to use it directly in your life or in your game today. Oh, I got you. And then the next day, how'd you use it? Well, this is what I did. Man, that was awesome. Did you do that? No. Why? I don't know. Didn't think about it. Okay. Well, that day's gone. Can't get it back. All right. So that's kind of how I do it. And that's how I get them motivated. That's how I keep them motivated.
Well, I think it's so good. And I just want to show this shot chart in a moment. Yeah. How the game has changed from a lot of inside the paint shots to now a lot of 3-point shots. And I just really enjoyed your story about how you used to shoot in a chair with a broken neck to get the right technique, fundamentals, form down. And what we try to teach with our players is a shot progression from under the hoop and work your way out as long as you have the right technique. Can you just talk about how the game has changed, and has that changed your preparation of kids seeing so many 3-point shots now part of the NBA, but even college and even high school level?
Absolutely. I mean, the way we teach it is, really, I teach one shot. One shot. There's really two types of shots, but people don't know. One is what I call one-piece shot. Usually it's a younger player or the girls from outside. They shoot it like right from their shoulders, okay? They just push it. It's kind of like a push shot. And I call it a one-piece because it has one resting point. Once you pick it up, off the dribble, it's in that shot pocket and it goes. Now, guys, they have a two-piece shot. They catch it a little lower and then they pull it up above their head and they get that window, and that's what they shoot through. So when we spend a lot of time on form shooting and foul shooting, really your 3-point shot is the same shot as your foul shot. It's just in the air.
Yes.
So once you learn one thing, you can apply that one thing everywhere. But see, kids today, they learn one shot one way, one shot another way. They think every shot's a different shot, and it's really not. And we have a 50-shot warm-up that they take. I was cleaning my office out the other day, and I ran across a little book. It's a book by Harvey Pinnick. Harvey Pinnick was one of the first golf pros out there, and it's called The Little Red Book. And he used to coach all the best golfers. And for years, they kept telling him, man, why don't you share this? Share it. He goes, I'm not giving up my secrets. I'm not giving up my secrets. So finally, his son, who's a golf pro, got him to write this book. And the other day, when I was cleaning out my office, reorganizing some things, I just picked the book up and it opened to this chapter. And it was called The Warm-Up. And he was talking about what people do today in golf and what the best pros do. He says, is that little chip shot, that little sand wedge right around the green. He said, that's a smaller version of your normal stroke. And when you really work on that, you're really teaching your brain, telling your brain that you're about to play golf, and you're really developing your tempo, your timing, which is very critical to golf, just like it's very critical to shooting. You got to have good tempo and timing. So man, I saw that and I said, man, he is so on it. So this 50 shot warm up, I say, why do coaches tell you to go in close and work way back? Well, I want to work on my form. I said, yeah, that's one reason. I said, but here's the biggest reason. Let me give you the biggest reason. When you get in close and you're working on your touch and your form, you have to push the ball up.
Hmm.
If you push the ball out from in close, it's going to hit the rim and come back and bust you right in the face. And then you're going to have a concussion shot. Okay. And you don't want that shot. So, see, they didn't even understand how they get the ball going up. Because most kids, when they go shooting and they're warming up, they go out there and what are their first 5 or 6 shots? Short, short. Then they go, man, I ain't making no shots today. I'm not on today, And then that affects their thoughts. Okay. And so when you make your first 95 out of 100, do you kind of think that you're on for that day? Yes. Okay. And I can show them how to do that. So, see, they make their first 90 out of 100, and then they end up torching the workout.
Yeah.
Because in their brain, they've signaled that line. Everything's on that straight line. And they're finishing, their tempo, their timing, all that's great. But see, nobody wants to take the time to do it. They just want to go. Let's play. Let's just play. Let's play. And competition, for what people don't really realize is nothing new is ever going to come out in competition. Only thing you're ready for is what's going to show up. If you don't have any new tools in the box, you're going to be a rerun player. Same show, different year.
And that's a great point.
That's what you see every year. And I say, they say, well, how do you know if you're a rerun player? This kid asked me this the other day. I said, well, here's how you'll know. Your coach says the same thing to you every day. And then when you get in the car, you hear the rerun from your parents. And I said, do you really like that conversation? The kid looked at me and goes, I'm so sick of that. I said, but see, if all of a sudden you add some new moves, some new finishes. Okay. It's like adding new episodes in the fall on a show.
Yeah.
Man, I never seen that before. Man, that was smooth. Coach, I've been working on my game a little bit, son. And then it becomes fresh. Okay. Instead of stale. And that's what a lot of kids do. See, they get stale. They're stale. There's nobody's added any new things to them. And, I think that's so critical. I think that's, that's why, this year, I don't know how many games I've watched, how many interviews I've seen where coaches go, well, we just started slow. We just came out of the gate slow. We just said, and I said, you know why? Because your warm up sucks. Okay. You're not ready during the warm up. And so that's one of the things I got on my plan for this year is I'm going to develop the best 17-minute warm up for teams that get the max of what you want to warm up.
I think that's wonderful.
People just don't know how to warm up. They just do that cool man warm up, about a half space, and oh, look at that. And then all of a sudden the game goes up, and they're going, oh my God, what happened? I'm down 10-0. And see, I can't stand that. So that's one of the big things. And then that warm up will really end up being how you start your practice every day.
Yep. No, I definitely agree. It is so critical that people come in with a purpose and with a plan and not ease your way into it. I think that's why you have a locker room to change and lace up and stretch. That's your easing up into it. Once you hit the gym, be ready to go. I like this picture behind me. Somebody made 99 out of 100 shots. And I think it goes to your point. If you start right, then you get your mind right. And then you can certainly compete and finish how you really need to go. Coach, I just want to get you out on a couple more questions. You mentioned your faith, and especially with the broken neck. And everybody knows I'm a pastor. I'm a man of faith. I believe in Jesus. How important is it that people believe in something bigger than themselves?
Oh, I think that's critical. I think that's critical. The old saying, no matter where you get in life, somebody helps you get there. Yeah. I know who helped me. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And the way I look at it, when I got that man on my side, man, I can't go wrong. Okay. I can't go wrong. I ask him all the time, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I ask him, and I have personal conversations about that all the time. I know I would not be where I am right now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I don't take any day for granted. And I think people got to have some, because, if you don't have, it's like this, like we were talking earlier about this COVID-19 thing, you know, and I see this all the time, God has a plan for everything. Okay. I mean, this is not something he's never seen. He knows what's going on. He's just watching how people are dealing with it.
Hmm.
Okay. And, that's the same way you got to, you got to have your own plan. You got to know that, you're not in this by yourself. I mean, you're not in it. I mean, he's brought people out of this, but you can't just rely on him. I mean, you got to take some of the brunt yourself. You got to be willing to do it. And I just think, it's just like it's so weird. I don't know if it's weird, but I tell people this, and they just kind of, when I go to church and I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the preacher, and he's talking, I just get this weirdest feeling, every time. I mean, it's every time. I feel like, man, he's just talking right to me. I mean, it's like he's singling me right out, man. I get cold chills. It's like, woo, I can't describe it to people, but you being a pastor, I mean, it's like a magnet. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. And it's also the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, it's just the greatest feeling. And, I'm sure you know that feeling. And I'm sure there's a lot of people know that feeling. And I just kind of wish more people did, and, I mean, things happen to people, and, it's not always something where you need God to help you through it, but somebody helps you through it,
Yeah.
but you got to have faith. You got to have faith that you can get things done. You got to believe, okay, even when things aren't going exactly the way you want. I mean, because they're not always going to go the way you want. I mean, you don't always have all the aces in the deck. Okay. But sometimes you just don't show your hand too early, and the guy with the best hand doesn't always win.
That's true.
So, I just think it's critical. I mean, for me, uh, I know I'm blessed to beyond. All right.
Hmm.
Like I said, we would not be having this conversation. End of story. None of this would have ever been possible. All right. And so he's helped me beyond, you know, being able to thank him.
Sure.
And so my goal is to pass that on to people. I'm going to help people. I mean, I'm going to add value to people. I'm going to get them to believe in themselves when they don't, just like people did with me. And so that's, I think, coaches and teachers play such a big role in kids' lives. I put stuff out every day on my Facebook page, on my Instagram. I get I get comments back every day from people that I haven't talked to in
Hmm.
15, 20 years that I had in school. Coach, I remember when you said that. And I said, well, I'm glad you remember, because I don't. But I mean, that just, they just tell me these things. That's had an impact on me. And it makes me feel good. I mean, it makes you feel good because that's kind of what you do, and, and I'm just passing it on.
So, Coach, the final question I have for you: with this pandemic, a lot of high schools and even colleges are saying there may not be fall sports this year, and obviously things in the spring were canceled. If somebody is concerned that their sport is not going to take place this school year, how should they still prepare?
Well, when you take something away, it gives you an opportunity to get better at it. Okay. And, like right now, what would most kids be doing? They'd be playing AAU and travel basketball right now. There is none. Okay. And so when there's not any, it's like, okay, I can't play so much. So what could I really be doing? Man, I could be training and working on my game. I could be working, working, working. So when that day comes back around and they say, next week we're open, we're on. Man, I'm going to tell you, you're going to go in that gym, and you're not going to be 2 years behind. You're going to be 2 years ahead of people.
Hmm.
See, and I always tell people life is like a sled dog race. Unless you the lead dog, the scenery never changes. And I said, you need to be the lead dog. And I said, it's a great opportunity. It's like I got some kids. I got one kid just coming off an ACL and a broken ankle. Guess what? They can't run. They can't do anything. Well, I broke my ankle too in school. And you know what I did? I couldn't run. So guess what I did? I went right back to the chair and started working on reps, working on pickups. I get 1,000 shots a day, but I couldn't run anywhere. But I got 1,000 shots a day working on between my legs, pickups, lefts, right, catching shoots, throwing it off the wall. All those things. We could, we could sit back and go, oh man, we can't play. And here we go. Feel sorry for yourself, like some people will. Or you can go, okay, I need a plan. I need a game plan. And that's what the kids I train, I put them on a plan. And I tell them, here's where you are. I've tracked them for a year. I've got them on that gun. I know what they did, last year at this time. I can tell you exactly what you made. Look what you're making right now. You're making 200 to 300 more shots in an hour than you did last year at this time. How's that happening? You don't do that by getting worse. You do that by getting better. I said, now you're going up into, you're making 600 shots in an hour. You started out making 125. You see? So they see that success and they keep working at it and keep working at it and keep working at it. And, I think a lot of kids, I think this Michael Jordan, The Last Dance.
Yeah.
I think that's helped, quite a few people, especially in the last episode where he's filming Space Jam and he had to build a gym and then he goes plays for 3-4 hours. Okay. Then he goes back and films. And, if anybody knows anything about doing a film, man, you talk about something that wears you out mentally. And here he was back out there playing. They go, how are you doing this? See, that's what made him the way everybody couldn't do that.
No.
But he could do that. That's why he's the legend. Okay. And so guess what? If he could do it, you could do it too. But you see, he had the drive, the passion, the motivation, the ambition, the will, the want, all those things. And most people don't even have any of those things. Okay. And that's why he's the greatest. So I would just tell people, man, keep working on stuff. Get with some people that are around. Find people that can help you, that can help you. The best way to get better is to find people that are better than you and get with them.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're the best guy in the gym, you're in the wrong gym. Okay. So you better go find somebody that can take you up a little level. And they're out there. And you just got to do your homework. You got to do your homework. There's some that aren't so good out there, but there are some really good ones, and they're out there. And I would just say, hey, don't sit around and say, well, I'll get that when it gets time, because you'll be so far behind, it's not even going to work.
Hey, Coach, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. And I love your story, love your enthusiasm, and still giving it away and paying it forward. And thanks so much. You're an inspiration and certainly a gentleman. So thank you.
Buddy, I appreciate it. I appreciate you thinking about me. And as always, it's great to talk to you. And if you ever need anything, you can hook us up. I got an Instagram, Sports CDU Basketball. I'm on Twitter. I post something on my Instagram. I post something positive every night. Okay. That's moved me. And I just try to pass it on to somebody else and maybe it'll move them.
We'll definitely link those social media sites to your interview. And thanks again. And that's Jim Clayton. And we say, bam, it is good to have you. Thanks so much.
Son. There you go.
And that's a fact. Hey, you're listening to Jay Fuller Interviews. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to have you join. And again, we're going to repost this, and we're going to connect links to Jim Clayton's site as well. Trust you guys are well. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right, we're out. Get to work. It's that time.